Hey there, special educators. Welcome to Autism Academy 360, a podcast to making your job as special education teachers easier. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Abby, a behavior specialist. And together, we have over 25 years of special education experience.
And I'm a veteran autism teacher. We both are passionate about empowering you with practical teaching strategies and actionable tips and tricks that will help you thrive in your role.
Whether you're a seasoned educator looking for fresh insights, a newbie navigating your first classroom, or a parent of a neurodivergent child, this podcast is your go-to resource for all things autism.
So let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special educators, and welcome back to another episode of Autism Academy 360. I'm Lisa Hollady, and today we're diving into a topic that's so important to classroom teachers: how to successfully include students with autism in your classroom. So whether you're a seasoned teacher or just starting out, it is natural to kind of wonder how you can support students with autism to help them thrive. So in this episode, I want to share 12 inclusion tips that can make a big difference for your students. All right, so let's get started. Number 1, reduce sensory overload. First things first, your classroom's sensory environment matters more than you might realize. Students with autism often struggle to filter out all the sensory input, which can leave them feeling overwhelmed. Take a second, look around your classroom. Is there a humming noise from the lights? Is there a ticking clock? I once had a student who couldn't focus because of a noisy fan near his desk. So by simply turning it off, his attention improved dramatically. Also, be mindful of scents. Strong perfumes or classroom air fresheners can be super overwhelming. I stopped using perfume a long time ago because it just set my students off. So you want to offer solutions like noise-canceling headphones or creating a quiet corner with study carols for focus work. For example, during group activities, you can provide a quiet space at the back of the room for students who kind of need a break from all the noise. These small tweaks can create a much calmer space for your students with those sensory sensitivities. Number 2, provide a structured routine. Students with autism often feel safer when they know what's coming next. Using a visual schedule or a written out routine so your students understand what to expect throughout the day. I've worked with students who need picture-based schedules to ease their transitions from activity to activity. One particular student of mine had a picture schedule on his desk that showed each part of his day. This helped him feel more in control and reduce his anxiety about what was happening next. If you ever think, oh, my student doesn't need a schedule because they know their routine, remember this. Even adults use planners to keep track of our daily routines and changes. That visual reminder is just as important for our students with autism. All right, tip number 3, warn about changes in advance. Sudden changes can be really difficult for students with autism, whether it's an assembly or fire drill or just a shift from classroom time to recess. Giving them a heads up is key. Use countdowns like, okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to transition to art. And continue to give those reminders as the timer gets closer. One time, I had a student who absolutely hated surprises. A simple 2 minutes until we head to library saved him from a complete meltdown and kept the rest of the class on track too. Tip number 4, use visuals. And I can't stress this enough for students with autism. Visual learning is a strength. Written instructions, pictures, or even demonstrations can be more effective than spoken directions. I had a student who struggled with multi-step tasks, so I used visual cards to kind of break down each step. When it came time to clean up after snack, the student would follow the visuals for throw trash away, wipe the table, and sit quietly. You can use these visuals to support any lesson or routine, from academic tests or even behavior management. Using visuals to support will go a long way. Tip number 5, keep verbal instructions short. When giving oral directions or instructions, try to use as few words as possible and pause to give students time to process it. Some students need 10 to 30 seconds to kind of fully absorb what you've said before they can even act on it. I once had a student who would freeze when overwhelmed by too many words at once. So by stopping, simplifying your directions, and giving them time to process, you have students who will follow those instructions without stress. So keep it short and simple. Write your name instead of, okay, I need everyone to get out their pencils and find the top right corner of the paper and write your name. That's like way too many words for the student. Just say, write your name here and point to the line. All right, tip 6, use clear, simple language. Avoid idioms and sarcasm with all of your might. As students with autism often take things so literally. So instead of saying, it's raining cats and dogs, just say, it's raining heavily. I've had students actually look out the window and search for animals when I accidentally use this figurative language. Or, all right, everyone take a seat. And I had a student get up and literally take his seat. And I said, why are you holding the seat? And he said, you said to take it, but I don't know where to take it. Literally makes me laugh out loud, but this also, prevents confusion and really helps everyone kind of stay on the same page. All right, number 7 is offer limited choices. So open-ended questions can create a lot of anxiety for students with autism. So instead of asking, okay, what do you want to work on today? Try offering limited, clear choices like, all right, do you want to read or draw? I remember a student who became completely overwhelmed when I asked him what he wanted to do during free time because the choices were so broad, especially when I pointed to the cabinet and said, okay, pick from one of these, 50 board games. The student started crying and having a meltdown because there were just too many options. After pulling out 3 or 4 board games for the student to pick through, he felt more confident in making that decision. All right, tip 8. You want to be explicit about rules and expectations. Many students with autism won't automatically pick up on classroom routines. You have to teach them explicitly and repeat as necessary. One of my students didn't know she was supposed to put her backpack in her cubby every morning. So we created a visual checklist that showed each morning setup, go and hang up your backpack, get out your homework, sit down at your desk, grab your morning work, things like that. So once we had that in place, her mornings went much more smoothly. All right, tip number 9, build in breaks. Some students with autism need regular breaks to kind of recharge or refill that cup. Build these into your classroom schedules and let students know when they can expect a break or how to ask for one. I worked with a student once who had break cards. She could hand one to me when she felt overwhelmed. She knew she had a few minutes to decompress by coloring or listening to soft music. Then she would return and feel refreshed for whatever task was coming up. The key is to making sure the break doesn't become an escape from the work, but rather a short reset. That is key. All right, tip 10, teach social skills. Social interactions can be confusing for students with autism. Teaching these skills explicitly is important. For example, you can kind of role play different social scenarios like greeting a classmate or sharing materials. So I know what you're thinking, like, Lisa, I don't have time to sit down and come up with a social skills lesson or take time to come up with these kind of role-playing scenarios. Guys, just do it within a situation. This only takes 1 or 2 minutes. So if they have 2 minutes before the class is about to start, maybe you can use a scenario with a student sitting next to them, or kind of feeding them the language so that they know what to say during those social interactions. So this direct teaching helps clarify what they should be saying, what they should be doing during these situations. All right, tip number 11, incorporate special interest. This is huge, guys. I cannot stress this enough. Students with autism often have strong interests or obsessions. I have a student right now who is absolutely obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog. He is a 5th grader and I love it, so it is kind of still relevant, but you want to use them to engage students in their learning. So say you have a student who is obsessed with dinosaurs. You want to incorporate dinosaurs into their math lessons, or maybe they're working on addition problems and you use little toy dinosaurs as the counters. So wherever you can kind of build those special interests in their learning will help them be more engaged and more motivated to want to learn new skills. The last and final tip is to, guys, don't sweat the small stuff. You want to remember to let the little things go. If your students prefer standing to sitting or kind of working by themselves instead of a group, that's okay. Pick your battles and focus on progress rather than perfection. I once had a student who would occasionally say something rude without realizing it. And instead of taking it personally, I just used it as a teaching moment to help him understand those social norms. So to conclude, inclusion takes time, patience, and collaboration with your entire team, but it can make a world of difference for your students with autism. Celebrate every small success and don't hesitate to ask support from your SLP, your OT, or anyone else who will listen. So thanks for tuning in today's episode. I really hope you found these tips helpful for creating that inclusive classroom. Until next time, guys, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Autism Academy 360. We hope that you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead.
Before you go, don't forget to hit that follow button on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. If you want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review.
Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and most importantly, stay connected. We'll catch you in the next episode.